Thank you for joining us today, and sorry about the brief delay there. We are in the February edition of the ServeNowEDU webinar series. I'll introduce this month's speaker momentarily, but first I wanted to reiterate that we're very excited to be able to bring this valuable educational content to the industry. It's just another way for us to add value to your ServeNow and ServeManager memberships, and a way for us to give back to the process serving community. If this is your first ServeNowEDU webinar, they are held on the last Thursday of every month and feature a wide variety of topics that include marketing, technology, operations, and also some topics that are very, very close to the process serving and legal support service industries, such as e-filing, e-service, and compliance. In fact, the latter two, e-service and compliance, are topics that are scheduled for March and April. So in March, Paula Ashcraft, CEO of Greentree Legal in Ohio, will be talking about creating a compliance management system. That's a topic that a lot of high-volume financial process servers that work for high-volume financial clients are starting to hear a lot, and it's starting to be required. And in April, Jeff Karakin, Vice President of One Legal, will be talking about the ever-looming concept of electronic service. The webinars will last anywhere between 35 minutes to an hour or so, depending on interaction and questions from the audience. But let me get to today's featured speaker. And today we have David Nill, CEO of Rapid Legal, and also CEO of a new venture called Legal Connect. So David, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Thank you, sir. David is a longtime friend and customer of ServeNow. He has been in the legal support service industry for 30+ years. He is past president, legislative chair, and technology chair of CalSPRO, and he's a past officer and on the board of directors of the National Association NAPS. David's webinar today is titled Propelling Your Company Forward with Technology. David has built one of the more unique and innovative firms in the legal support industry. Rapid Legal pivoted from a physical, paper-based company to one that is fully technology-enabled, that moves documents and data almost exclusively electronically. As he tells you his story, you'll learn how he executed this transition both physically and philosophically. He'll discuss the resulting impact to help you decide if a similar roadmap is right for your firm. Please feel free along the way to ask any questions that you may have on the current topic through GoToWebinar using the questions feature. And I'll do my best to monitor them as David is talking and as I'm interviewing him and asking him questions, and if I don't get to them right away, I'll do my best to get to them at the end. So, David, why don't you give us a quick history of your professional background, if you don't mind jumping into that?
Sure, absolutely. So I started in 1984, serving process, basically knocking on doors at 5:30 in the morning or 9:30 at night, trying to serve individuals. In Southern California, mainly first area that I got was in the beautiful area of East LA and Compton, so it was fun and interesting times, but that was the only area that was available to me, so that was the area that I took. So you learn how to serve politely and quickly in those areas. So it was making sure that I was there. I was always professional and did things, you know, like I said, rather quickly. Till about 1988, I was just a field server. In 1988, I decided to start my own company directly for law firms, and did that from 88 till 94 with having individual process servers work for my company. And in 1994, I started Rapid Legal. Rapid Legal at the time was a traditional attorney service. We had, over the next 10 years, up to 11 offices, 50+ employees, revenues that were close to $2 million in gross revenues, and was fairly successful doing that. But every time I turned around, it was technology was becoming more and more prevalent, not only just in our industry, but in the world. And so I started to take a hard look of how we could take technology and really basically utilize it to its greatest benefits for our company. And so we started doing analytics and realized some areas where we had the greatest defects, some areas that we could make the biggest change in our operations from both a customer satisfaction as well as a profitable, being profitable. And so we started that process of converting our traditional pickup and delivery type of attorney service to one that did three things essentially at the beginning. One was that we no longer did pickups. Customers had to submit their orders to us online through fax filing. That was the only way that we would receive them. We would then forward them or route them to wherever the final destination was, and they would then get printed for last mile fulfillment, wherever that may be, whether it's across the county, across the state, or even across the country. At that point, I also realized that we just really felt that transactional, doing everything on a transactional basis was the key to our long-term success. And so we converted and switched to one that was on a subscription and transactional model to one that was just on a transactional model. I know a lot of people throughout the country do it just transactional. I'm a big fan of that. In California, especially in Los Angeles, a lot of the business is done through a subscription-based or retainer-based business. So by doing that, it allowed us to really reduce our staff greatly. We also reduced our revenues greatly in the first 18 months. We went from a $2 million company to about a $1.2 million company in that 18 months time frame. And it was very difficult, but what it did was it allowed us to really drill in and make sure that every assignment we had, we were able to fulfill in a higher success rate, less defects, and better customer satisfaction. Over the next 18 to 36 months, we ended up growing the business tremendously by over 150% from that point. We were able to raise prices because our customer satisfaction was up, and we were able to really invest in technology for our company. And so we started hiring our own engineers at that point and basically building the platform that Rapid Legal currently works on today, which is our new venture, which is Legal Connect, which is basically a software platform that moves data and documents as quickly as possible, securely, and gives a lot of tools to the users, whether it be the forwarding company, the field agent, whoever it is. They can all use the same documents and data at the same time. So that in itself allowed us to reduce the number of offices, reduce the number of employees, and made us a more successful business at that point. So the other thing that by doing your business online does for us is there's a lot of benefits from doing the business online, but there's also a higher bar for doing business online that we've learned. One is the benefit of doing business online is that when you buy online, whether it be Amazon, whether it be Zappos, whether it be anyone, the expectation that people will give you payment information, a credit card, ACH, is expected. And so it allowed us to greatly reduce our risk of uncollectible receivables. And so we started to, demand, request, require, however you want to put it, payment information at the time that someone placed a job or set up an account. And by doing that, it allows you to have the cash flow to continue to operate at a higher level and hopefully makes your company more stable. The the opposite side of that is the expectation from the customers on what products you offer, what the price is for those products, and making sure that your price doesn't vary from up to down depending on how you feel one day, or maybe you thought, oh, this job took more effort, so I have to bill more. You can't really do that online. At least we don't feel you can. You have to tell customers what they're going to get charged, and then you got to stick to that. And if you have to adjust the pricing, that's fine, but you need to adjust it and move forward with that pricing, not adjust it after the fact. So it's important that you get a stable product, and that your pricing is just, shown to customers. It's not a hidden or a surprise for them, and you stick to it, and then you adjust from there. So the other thing that it did for us by going online is it just greatly improved our customer satisfaction. Everybody, like I said, in our organization, all the way down to the field agent, is using and looking at the same documents, the same data, the same attempts. In fact, it's a step further. So our customers, when they submit their order, can look at a job, look at attempts, look at billing. Our operators inside your company can look at a job, look at attempts, look at documents, and then the field agent on the final fulfillment can do the same. So everybody's looking and working from the same set of facts, and they're instantaneous.
Yep. Well,
so the client.
I know we covered a lot, probably at a higher level, things that we want to get into a little bit more deeply. I just want to take a step back for a second. You said you went from 2 million to 1.2 million, not overnight, but pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, 18 months.
Were there moments during that transition where you're like, maybe I need to rethink this. Maybe I'm not as committed to this philosophy as I thought I was, and I guess just talk about what was going on in that time frame and how you stayed committed to that.
Yeah, a lot of sleepless nights, but I don't think, I was always, there was definitely a concern, but the response that we were getting from customers was so positive. Customers, the reason why we lost that business was because of the fact that we were no longer offering certain services to customers, and they were used to it. And even if they weren't profitable to us, they were used to it. And so that was definitely a difficult time. Now remember, even though I lost $800,000 or a good 40% of the business, I also reduced the expenses greatly at that time. But if I was a company out there listening today to do it, there's some things that I definitely do it a little differently. I went all in when we decided to make the move. There was no looking back. I would have probably done it over a longer period of time rather than do it as quickly as possible. That I did it within 18 months is what it did, is what we did it. And like I said, I would have done it over a longer period of time, but there's definitely some nervousness. But remember, when I did it in 2004, it's a different world today than it was in 2004. The expectation of having an online application with the expectation of e-filing and e-filing being transactional, that's all, it's an easier pill to swallow for customers today. So for companies to make that transition today, one, I think you can make it in parallel with your existing business without losing your existing business, as I did. Two is, I think the expectation or the tolerance for customers doing that today is a lot more than it was 12 years ago. So.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Awesome. Thanks for that. I guess, do you want to get back? You covered philosophy, a little bit of technology, physical space, products and pricing. Are you comfortable getting a little bit deeper on some of those elements right now?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So maybe, go ahead. Let's say maybe with technology, how did the offline Rapid Legal compare to what the online Rapid Legal looks like now? What sort of tools did you buy or did you build to facilitate this? And I guess how would that potentially translate to a small, let's say a 5-person process serving firm who,
Sure.
what sort of analogs are out there? If you build something, what might they look at from a parallel product?
Yeah. So I would say that the greatest difference or change is that I don't deal with a lot of paper, as a lot of people do in this industry. So I don't move papers. I move documents electronically. Now, we still do fulfillment by filing physical documents in the courts. We still do physical process serving at the end of the day where we're serving that document. So the documents are, they're still printed, but once we serve them, once we file them, we no longer have them. We don't keep field sheets like a lot of people do. That data goes right into the system. So we don't, we throw away documents. If we decide that there's a bad address on a service in a particular area, the way that it used to work in this industry is you'd mail back that document along with your field notes to the company, or you'd bring it back into their office. They'd then redispatch it to a different server in a different area. They had to get the documents back. In fact, recently I was just talking to someone, a fairly large company, and they were saying, hey, when we stop using a server, the first thing we want to do is figure out what they have outstanding so we can get all that work back. And I just kind of chuckle because it's like, I don't want that work back. I'll just redispatch what I have. I already have all the notes in the system.
You already have it.
I already have the documents. I don't need that work back. So, this mindset that you need to constantly be touching paper is something that I've tried to really get away from. Is you don't need to touch paper. You need to touch paper once. You need to touch paper with one person at fulfillment, but you don't need to touch paper 13 times in the middle of all that.
Right.
So the biggest change, what's the difference between the offline Rapid Legal and the online Rapid Legal is the amount of paper that is around our office. And again, I don't want to say we don't have any paper because we still do mailings when we have to do a mailing on a substitute service. We still will print a document if a process server comes to pick up a document at our location. That just doesn't happen too often, but if it does, we still deal with paper in that regards, but it's not stacks and stacks of paper coming in. Usually it'll come in electronically. We'll get a prompt in our queue that says, hey, this particular service has to go to this area. We dispatch it to that process server. They print it locally. They fulfill it. They upload their status. They sign their proof. And that's the only time we ever, we don't even touch the document at that point. Mm-hmm. So that's the major difference. But what it allows us to do by getting rid of that paper is we can do more predictable, repeatable actions, because once we enter in that data or upload that document the first time, it's now there to be used however we need to use it, to move it wherever we need to move it. Even email, because our documents come into our system. Even email, it's not stored anywhere, right? It's just in your email, and you get prompted, and then you forward an email. It's also not secure, but there has to be a repository, a place where you can store that document and that data so that others can utilize it, so you don't have to redo everything. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we do is we don't try and necessarily burden. In fact, I want to ease the burden on our customers, but we have them do the data entry. So the customers are doing the data entry, the customers are doing the uploading the document. We then will look at it, do whatever we need to do to it, forward it where we have to forward it, and then just monitor the document at that point and make sure the customer's getting what they need.
You bring up an interesting
concept of the on our software side of our business. We
Sure.
have a lot of the conversations or talk about a lot of things that you've talked about. We talked about getting rid of field sheets. Customers have the ability to, enter and then subsequently track their jobs. I guess talking about that for a minute, what is the response from the customer who, do you have challenges getting them to enter in that data? One, I guess that's the first part of the question. And from a technical perspective, how much time does your development staff spend on mitigating that through integrations and connectivity with case management applications that your clients may be using?
Sure. So let's start with, again, go back 12 years ago. 12 years ago, it was very difficult. Today, it's not difficult at all. In fact, the expectation is now that they enter it online, and I don't get any pushback. And let me say, yes, there's always that one person or that one, I don't want to discriminate on age discrimination, but maybe there's that older secretary or that older self-represented litigant who doesn't want to do it online. And, you try and be as courteous as possible, but we have a philosophy that you have to do it that way. And the reason why the way we share that with them is that it really protects them. And that is, they need to enter in the information. It's their information. If we do it on their behalf, then we run the risk and increase our risk of doing it incorrectly. So I'd rather put that on them, have them enter it, have them upload it. We do definitely have people that have to retrain. We talk about retraining in this country all the time, and it is something that's important, of it understanding technology, understanding how to store documents into a folder, where to store them, what's the difference between a PDF or a JPEG or a Word document, or can you upload it, how do you store it, and how do you convert it, and those type of things. So there are some training things that we go through, but it's not overly taxing on us at all. From a development standpoint, yes, we're constantly trying to figure out how we can ease the pain on moving data and information, whether it's doing APIs into case management systems or into customers' systems. But it's you don't necessarily need to do that. There's companies out there, whether it's Legal Connect, whether it's Serve Manager, whether there's other software applications out there that definitely are out there that can do that. And I think the biggest key is, and I'll go back to the start of this, it's really a philosophy of, if you're going to continue to grow inside this industry, you have to adopt and you have to embrace technology and the benefits that it offers. Because if you don't, you're really a salmon swimming upstream, that it's going to be difficult, it's going to be tiring, and a lot of them aren't going to make it. So if you're swimming upstream, yes, maybe you'll make it, maybe you can hold on, but it's going to be very tiring, and like I said, a lot of you won't make it. So it's really a philosophy of embracing technology, learning as much. This seminar or webinar is a perfect example of what people can do to figure out how to learn to do these things. And there is one of the things that I'll share this with you. There's a lot of great people in this industry, and there's a lot of people that are willing to give back and willing to share ideas and thoughts with each other on how we can, as a group, try and offer better service to the legal community. And it is, kind of going out there and asking questions and getting ideas and figuring out how you can continue to add value to your customer and remain relevant, I think, is the key to the whole game today.
Right. So you've created kind of new rules for your business. You've created a new operational workflow. You've built your process, your staff, your technology around the ideal workflow for your business, for your vision, for how you see process serving being managed in the future. Do you ever flex for that client who has the right amount of volume, who has special needs?
Did you say flinch or flex?
A little bit of both.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. That's an interesting
you
question.
take credit cards, you have ACH. They must enter in all the data themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's kind of a
doesn't change. Everybody, those rules are standard. We do not make exceptions to those rules at all. We do not take one customer and will not take one customer that is not willing to enter in their own work online in our application. It's not our business strategy. It's not our business model. Now, I'm not advocating that to, everybody, because I know, a lot of people don't have the appetite. I don't know their business, so I may not even recommend that if I knew who their clients were or what their business strategy was. I just can tell you from our perspective is that we can do more and we can operate more efficiently and at a faster rate of speed if we have everybody doing it the same way. Now, are there some variations? Yes, there are some variations. I'll share with you a couple, right? A couple is for the right volume, we will adjust our price point, right? But it's based off of factual information. So we can sit there and say, we know what our profit margin is, what our gross profit margin is for a particular job, and how much room we have that we can, kind of reduce the price and still stay profitable. So there will be times where we'll adjust the price point. We do it where we will offer open credit to certain customers under certain situations as long as they stay within the payment terms that we've set up. I had an interesting opportunity recently with a fairly large customer, about a $10,000 a month customer, who wanted us to wait up to a year to get paid when they actually closed out cases. We politely declined and said, that's not our business strategy. We won't do it. We'll go as long as 60 days. That's as far as that will go for the right customer under the right circumstances, and only if they stay to those terms. And I think that's the biggest key, right? When you have a conversation with the customers, you got to be willing to get terms and make sure they stay to those terms. And if they do, then it's a happy relationship. And if they don't, then you're going to have problems. But there are times that, yes, we do make exceptions to that.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to stray here for a second because there are a couple questions. I should have got to one of these earlier. Paula asks, when you made the change from picking up documents to fax filing submission, did you charge your client for printing service documents, or did you absorb that cost?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we absolutely had to charge for printing and prep. So, it's an interesting, I feel as much as I want to support the legal community and want to offer a good service and offer value to our customer, I also feel like in the process serving / attorney service, court filing, however you want to say it, that for years we've been doing a lot of stuff for too little pay. And the thought of going and picking up a document, driving, the time it takes to go there, bring it back, is one reduced rate, and yet when I'm going to prepare it and do the prep work, that's how we charge, or how we exhibit our value to our customers. So yes, we do charge to prepare and to review the documents because we're an extension of their staff at that time. So yes, we do. Now what we do is we used to do it to the point where it's a per page charge. Now we do different buckets depending on the size of the job. And like for service of process, we'll actually accept up to 200 pages before we charge anything extra to a customer for a service of process. Anything over 200 pages, we do charge a document prep fee in addition to that fee. For court filings, it's, there's 1 to 15, 15 to 50, whatever it is, and then we charge it per page after that.
Mm-hmm. And you'll do that for the one-offs too, if they have a 195-page document for a pro se or kind of the onesies twosies. That's part of your policy.
Absolutely, and in fact, we don't judge or discriminate against any customer based on what the account type is. So we have published pricing, whether they're a party without attorney, whether they're a law firm. The price is the price, and we don't. Again, this goes back to the expectation of an online business, right? So if a customer comes in and sees that I charge this, then that's the price, and it wouldn't matter to me whether or not they're a law firm or whether or not they're a party without attorney. I understand that at times there's more work involved to manage and to take care of that customer, but we don't charge any difference.
Gotcha. Just a comment here, but I think we could probably parlay it to a question. The Midwest courts are 20 years behind the times. We still have county clerks that issue court documents with special raised seals or special color paper. This eliminates the ability to move documents electronically. Clerk requires original issue summons to be served. I'm sad, I want technology. How do you have to deal with these scenarios? And if so, what's your strategy?
Yeah, so I look at these as opportunities, right? So we definitely, the raised seal is not something that we've had to deal with in a long time. There are certain courts and county facilities like recorders that still require original documents, and on those particular situations, our process is identical except for the fact that the customer has to overnight them to us. Or overnight them to our fulfillment partner. So the delay then becomes the court's, everybody's under the same rules, right? So if a court document has to be original, raised seals, that type of thing, our process would take, our technology would take into account certain documents that require original, and it would just tell the customer, whoever that is, overnight it to this location or mail it to this location. When we were doing fax filing, and I don't know, I'd have to check with our operations, the last count was only one county still required color paper in California, and we literally build that into the price, and we had color printers or paper, different colored paper, where we print documents on different colored paper in order to do the fulfillment in that particular court. So you just figure out what the requirement is, and you build it into your price, and you offer as much technology as you can. Sometimes it's a complete, when you talk about e-filing, electronic filing, which we're live in electronic filings in a couple courts in California and looking to expand that in the very near future, that's the gold standard of how to do filing, where the client goes onto our portal, they enter the information, it's actually talking to the court's case management system, getting all the case information from the court, they're submitting it through an XML transfer to the court, it's talking to the court, we get it back, and it goes back to the customer fully electronically from start to finish. But there's variations of that depending on the court, and we just try and accommodate the different variations of what the requirement is for that particular location.
Looks like we have a follow-up to some of what you just said there, and I'll just kind of read it verbatim because you probably have a better idea what it means than I do. But the question is, what about appellate court and velo binding plus different colored covers?
Sure. That goes back to what I said, where the way we accept that is they overnight it to our, whoever's doing that fulfillment in that particular location of where it has to go to. So on those type of things. Now, there are different courts, and as you get more involved, you see that the courts and government agencies across the landscape are having these discussions, and I don't think that that's going to be the case forever. I can't tell you whether or not that's 12 months, 24 months, or 60 months, but at some point, they're going to evolve to the point that that's not going to be a requirement. In the meantime, what we do is they tell us what type of document is, we see what the requirement is for that particular court, and then we handle it accordingly. So what the UI would be on that particular one is, you know, overnight it to our location, or if you're using our technology and you still do routes, it would just say pick up on the route.
Right, I'm going to circle back a little bit. I think we've covered a lot of the different areas, subsets of, you know, the philosophy, what goes into that, you know, technology, products, pricing, customer service, those sorts of things. One, and we did talk about kind of how the human resource overhead changed, and number of physical offices down to one office, and sort of repurposing your staff to manage your new process. But talk a little bit about the, I guess, the vendor slash you know, affiliate server situation. Is it you know, you're doing things maybe not differently than some other companies, but is it a challenge for you to find those folks that are going to kind of work within your process, you know, use your tools, drop the notion of cover sheets, you know, kind of drop paper altogether? I guess, what are you looking for in that when you're looking for an affiliate server, and what challenges, if any, do you have there?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely a great question. So I know I sound like a broken record here, but when we made the transition, and it's been a process over the last 10 plus years, is that there's definitely been through a training, a retraining, trying to understand their point of view, meaning the field agent, how they operate, and explaining to them their benefits of getting it this way. That's the big thing that we try to do, is explain to our vendors who have to log into our portal what's the benefit of that for them. And, you know, I'm trying to keep them out in the field serving papers so they can make more money for themselves. So if they can get a, you know, a $200 or $300 printer locally at their either little office space, or if it's the, you know, even if it's their house, which I started out of my garage, so I totally get it. A lot of people work out of their homes, and you know, I think it's great. You know, small entrepreneurship is where this country's founded, and I think it's, you know, the companies that can hire 2, 3, 4, 5 people, you know, that's fantastic, and that's where we need to go. And so it's trying to share with them that the same thing we've learned, which is the expectation that the client has, and making sure that we have good processes, that we are predictable and that we're repeatable, and that we can share with the vendor analytics that says, I can get you this many jobs that are an average of this size, and you can make more money by doing this, is a big key. Are there some that just are not willing to make the transition? Absolutely. And we've just said, hey, good luck to you. We understand, but this is how we have to do it. Now, when we have an area, because we're like a lot of companies, we send work nationwide, right? And in California, we have less of a problem than we do when we're trying to manage process servers as either the, you know, whoever mentioned it earlier as far as the Midwest, right? So if we have a serve in the Midwest and they're not comfortable or as comfortable with technology, and they're not, you know, willing to log into our portal or work with us, then we have to make an adjustment for that area, try and train them, try and share with them the benefits of working with us and how we can help them kind of get to that next level. And if they're not willing to do that, share with them that we'll use them only as long until we can find another process server agency in that area that can fulfill our needs. Because ultimately, we feel like it gives our customers better service. I mean, think about it this way, Trent. If we have a law firm in Los Angeles that gives us a job, and they can upload that job, and I can route it from my office into Fort Collins, Colorado, okay? a process server in Fort Collins working out of his house can print it in his home, go out and attempt it at 6 o'clock at night, update a status, and the client in Los Angeles has that status right then and there. It provides better service to the client, and that makes us more successful, and it makes that process server more successful who's willing to do that and willing to educate themselves on learning that process. You mentioned something earlier that I'll just touch on as well is, retraining our staff. Our staff has definitely gone through a metamorphosis and a change of what they do, right? They are definitely gone from people that used to do a lot of processing, a lot of hand endorsing of summons, to they have to be more technology, more skilled in technologies and working with online tools, doing endorsing, working with PDFs, forwarding, being more customer service and customer support orientated so that they can provide a better level of service. They do a lot of training. They do training for vendors. They do training for customers. So they're doing a lot more training with the industry and with the customer base than they are the traditional just processing work. So that's how they've I'll give you an example. I have 4 of our frontline operating, actually two product people and 2 operators who are going to be in an office on Tuesday all day doing nothing but train this large firm on how to process work.
Gotcha.
So,
someone wants to know how they can become a resource for you in a particular state to serve papers.
Sure. Go on our website, rapidlegal.com, and find the Become a Vendor at the bottom of the page and fill out an online form. I know that doesn't surprise anyone, that says Become a Vendor, and we'll contact you. It automatically gets sent to our operations team, and you can become a vendor and learn how to work with our company in that particular state.
They can't fax their application in?
No, we actually don't. I crack up. Was that a joke or what?
It was a bad joke, but
okay.
I could have done better. I could have been.
I don't use.
You could send them like a triplicate form that they fill out. They have to FedEx it back to you.
Yes. No. I try not to use fax numbers anymore.
I'm on board with that notion for sure.
Yes. Yes.
So we're got about another 15 minutes or so. We, like I said, there's a number of things we talked about that were the subsets of the philosophy and how you make that transition. Talked about technology, human resources, physical space, products and pricing, customer service, the vendor relationship. Before we moved on to some other questions, is there anything that you wanted to mention on any of those topics? I just don't want to.
Yeah, no. I thought, one thing that we didn't touch about that we talked about, Trent, that I think it's another very, very good topic, and that is client or customer education, right? So you're doing a webinar right now for your clients, right? We do what we call lunch and learns for our clients, and we do, webinars for our clients as well. Learning how to do this when your clients, your law firms that you do work for don't know how to do that, it's such a value to them. And so when you learn how to work with a PDF, you learn how to work with an online application, and then you train that back to your customer, it is a great sales and marketing tool to get into those customers and again provide value back to the customer. I cannot stress providing value to your customer at the end of the day is all you have. Whether you're providing good service, fast service, or you're providing education for them, those two things, those are what's going to keep you relevant in this industry, in any industry for that matter. So yeah, putting the client education, whether it's through just giving them user guides, just giving them tips, figuring out how you can give back to them is very powerful. Absolutely. And by the way, so just as an interesting thing, so let's see. So I don't know, but I just got a vendor, become a vendor application, so I'm assuming someone just did it online. Actually, I just got two, so.
Was it from the Carolinas?
Let's see. One was from Arizona.
Barrett said one was from him, so.
Yeah, there you go. There, Barrett. I got your Barrett Farrell. Yeah.
So this webinar was just a ploy to grow your affiliate network.
Yeah, thank you. You know what? It is so important. You know.
Absolutely.
As you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, do you think one of the questions that we had talked about answering was, what's the net impact for Rapid Legal? I know ultimately, you saw that growth financially to where you are from where you were originally. What other, when you talk about net impact, what other areas do you feel like you've gained a tremendous impact for Rapid Legal?
Yeah, so another great question. The size, the overall size of the company is definitely rewarding, but to be honest with you, it's just the way we conduct business compared to the way we conduct business before. Right. It's a different mindset. It's more of a, we look at it more of a situation where we're really providing professional services to professional people and clients. So it's more predictable. We don't just make it up as we go along. It's through process. It's through a lot of, having discussions about how we're going to operate, making sure that those are good processes. And then we constantly review. I mean, you sit in a meeting and you talk about how we're doing. Is it working? We like to say here in this office, show me dead bodies. I don't want to hear stories. And what that basically means is we want real live examples of something that's working or something that's not working. Just, I feel like this isn't good, or I feel like the customer's happy. No, I want real, examples that we can track, and more than one of why we're going to change the process. Because when we change, we want to be, kind of like the old saying that said, measure twice, cut once. We don't want to constantly be changing our processes. We want to make sure that they're dialed in, that they're going to have an impact, a positive impact. And positive impacts don't always have to be revenue generating. They could be motivational generating, of us feeling that we're offering a better service. They could be customer satisfaction, that we're doing it for that purpose, right? So there's lots of reasons to do things that aren't always tied to revenue. But ultimately, I think they all come back to revenue generating.
Right. I had another question for you to follow up, but I completely lost it. I guess one thing that's in my mind is, as we talk through this, we're talking about taking a offline process serving company or a traditional process serving company and becoming technology enabled. Yeah. But as much as you are becoming technology enabled, it's almost like you are becoming a technology company, not just a process serving company that relies on technology, because that's where you used to probably have to worry about paper and file cabinets and scanning and those things. Now you are building and maintaining the systems to facilitate an electronic workflow.
Right. Well, so there's actually two businesses, right? There's the software as a service, which is the Legal Connect side, which you're absolutely right. Products, engineering, QA, maintaining the stability and the scalability of the actual workflow and that type of thing is one side of the business. The other business unit is really the file and serve business, where that's what we've been doing since day one when I was knocking on doors at 5:30 in the morning, right? It's providing that type of service. And that business, it's interesting, there's some areas of that business that are very alike and in alignment with most of the people on this webinar today, right? It's dealing with customer satisfaction. It's dealing with codes and rules of courts. It's making sure that the statutes aren't blown. It's making sure that the serves are done, there's enough diligence in order to do a proper subservice. It's all those. It's making sure the proof of service is correct. We deal with all that on the file and serve side of our company. The area that I would, you mentioned something a second ago, and that is how can a company, make the transition? There's two elements of that. One is the fulfillment partner, right? The person that you just mentioned of the vendor who wants to get work, whether it's coming from Rapid Legal, Serve Manager Client, other companies out there, they need you to interact with them online, right? They want you to update the statuses. They want you to accept the jobs online. They want you to, for us, upload proofs of service online or e-sign proofs of service is how we operate. Understanding that and becoming, making sure that you're comfortable with it, making sure that you're willing to do it and that you know it is going to incredibly make you valuable to a lot of companies out there that are pushing work out there. The second part is trying to transition your law firm business to that way, right? And that's definitely a bigger step. But even that, there's companies out there, software companies, Legal Connect's one, again, I think Serve Managers too, where clients can go on your website, click log in, and place orders that way. And so it really is just partnering or buying the right technology that enables you to be able to offer those services. And, a lot of people ask us all the time, well, what's it going to cost? And I always change is how much more money are you going to make?
Right.
It's not really always what is it going to cost me. It is if you're not really willing to make the full transition and go all in, that this is what you're going to do.
Right.
And one last point, and this is one of the things that I think is key. Not that I'm trying to end your webinar for you, but you can do it whenever you want. Yeah. And that is, I talk to a lot of people in this industry who say, oh, my clients won't do that, right? They're old school. And what I have to chuckle about is those clients are already giving me jobs, okay? And because they have to, right? They're going online. Or if they're not giving me jobs, they're buying something on Amazon or they're updating their status on Facebook. So when they say they won't use technology, it's kind of, it's a crack up because they're absolutely using technology every single day. And so it's just really getting them over that hump to let them know they're using your technology and it's going to benefit. And there's some work involved. You may have to go there and really educate them and really share with them why they should do it and the benefits. And it may be sitting there saying, hey, I'm going to spend an hour at your office every day sitting behind you showing you how to do my order, and I'm going to give you the first 10 orders for free, right? To do it that way. And then once they get comfortable with it, wow, now it's like you're just getting work left and right because they realize how easy it is to use you as a company. And you just gave up a little bit of time and a couple of jobs that you had to get for free.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And as you know, a lot of the issues surrounding doing things a different way is simply because they're used to doing it the old way. And if you can retrain, you can explain the ease, the efficiencies, there's no reason why you can't educate that client or whomever to adopt that new process. We have less than 5 minutes or so. I have kind of one last question for you before we wrap it up. And there's another question that came through from the attendees. I'll get to that one first. But if there's other questions out there in the audience, feel free to drop those in. We just have a few minutes left for David. We don't want to keep him too long. But the question from the group is, as technology continues to evolve in our industry, do you have any fear about e-service replacing the process server as e-filing replaced the courier?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if a fear is the right word. There's always a concern. You got to be very aware of that. You understand, obviously, that we're dealing with due process. You know, that's the thing that we've got to do as a industry is protect due process and keep a disinterested third party involved in the process. When you're trying to gain jurisdiction over someone through first papers or case initiations, I think that that's going to be hard for them to do electronically. You know, from the word go. Could it eventually happen? I guess it could. I don't know what the future holds for, you know, for technology. I don't think it's any time in the near future. And I also think that the vast majority of papers that get served, people aren't going to be willing to accept service that way. So it's going to really, really put a burden and on the courts trying to hear motions to quash on whether or not people were really served or not. But, you know, as far as e-service on primary documents or primary service, you know, on the case initiation documents, I don't see that in the near future. I see that as a last resort. I know the media likes to talk about, you know, oh, he got served on Facebook. So those situations are out there, but they're generally last resorts. Well, they're always last resorts when people could not be served, and they're just trying to move the case forward. So no, I don't think that that's any time in my lifetime, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. But I'm 50, so that kind of tells you where that.
So we have another 50 years before I have to worry about it.
Yeah. I don't know. So, I want to live another 50 years.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you, but that's a different webinar topic.
Yes.
So we've touched on a little bit of e-filing. We've touched on, obviously, you know, some sort of case management, you know, process serving specific software to manage your business, whether it's, you know, yours, ours, a couple of the other ones that are out there. What other, I guess, if you're looking at your, you know, your technology assets, what other types of tools should you, and maybe there aren't any, but should you be looking at, you know, customer relationship management tools? Are there, I don't know, are there other pieces of technology that the process serving company who's either considering going the route that you have went, either partially or completely, should be looking at before they kind of jump into this?
Yeah, so what we do is we actually have integrations for these different you know, tools that you're talking about. So we're fully integrated to QuickBooks Online inside our platform. We're fully integrated, not through our platform, but our business is with Salesforce, which is a customer relationship management software. I think it's important when you're depending on the size of the company, you know, that's the real variable there is the size of the company. I think a smaller mom and pop company that's dealing with, let's say, you know, less than 100 clients, they could do some really powerful things with just using some real basic free technology and free software out there to manage their customers. You know, I think there's a lot of free stuff out there for people to use, and you know, that's I think the key is to learn it. And you know, there's a lot of free trials out there that you can do. The one thing that I wouldn't do, and this is a lesson that I learned when I was first starting to kind of get into technology, I always thought of myself as you know, being this big company, right? So I always was looking for buying this, something I can grow into. And I would say probably 80% of it I never ever gave close to. So buy where you're at today Don't worry about, oh, I need to get something that I can scale into. Now, you will get to a certain size that you want to be able to think a little bit further down the road, but a lot of times you're buying something that's way overkill, and then all of a sudden you think, well, that was a waste of technology. I should have never bought that, or technology doesn't work because it's too powerful for what you have. Be very focused on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. I mean, I'll tell you, and I used to do this literally, is sit at your kitchen table, sit in your office, and start writing some goals down on what you want to do for your business. Whether they're, I want to reach out to this customer once a week, I want to reach out to this customer once a month, once a quarter, whatever it is. And you could do it on an Excel spreadsheet just to start, some type, or even Outlook. I mean, literally, you can use Outlook to sit there and do your customer relations manager management for a company that's 50 to 100 clients by just setting some reminders to reach out and touch them and say hello. Ask them if they if they can want to do any education on some topics. Create some topics. Again, create value, create content for them.
Awesome. Well, we are a few minutes over. Sounded like that might have been a good kind of parting piece of advice, but is there anything else before we wrap this up that you'd want to share?
No, I'd just go back to the very start, which is it really is a mindset. It's I would suggest that everybody kind of take some time to just think about where do you want to be and how can you be a part of this. Everybody really truly can be a part of this industry in the future. You just got to think of, okay, how can I do that? Who do I need to partner with? Who do I need to ask questions of? And then it's doing it. It really is. I mean, at the end of the day, what makes or breaks a company is execution. You got to be willing to, to get into the fight and start to wrestle around and figure out what it is that you can do and what services you can offer the industry.
Right. Awesome, David. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today and to share your experience. I think all of our speakers who have been a part of this series or ServeCon really have a true passion for the industry and want nothing more for it to grow and continue to be relevant, and you are definitely no exception there. So thank you very much. For those of you who are still with us, it looks like most of you are, the recording of today's webinar will be live probably by the next couple days, if not sooner. You can find it linked off of the ServeNowEDU page, which you can find from the homepage on ServeNow.com, and it'll also be sent to you in a follow-up email that will come from GoToWebinar, the link to David's webinar today. So thank you to all of our attendees for being here, and thank you for the great questions. And remember to go to the ServeNowEDU page and sign up for the upcoming webinars in March and April on compliance and e-service. And if you have suggestions on future webinar topics, please call or email us. So thank you again, David, and thank you to all of our attendees today. We'll see you next month.